Mm. Hi, Nick Fox Radio.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have this conversation, and this is the first time I've done this format. But you showed up on my For You page and at Nick Fox Radio, and you talked about this term I had never heard called millennial inheritance. And I just did a deep dive and I was like, I have to talk to you. So, those of you who follow me know I'm Tracy McCubbin. I own a company called Declutterfly. I have been decluttering and organizing people for almost 2 decades. And I really drill down into the emotional attachment to stuff. So, I can give you a rainbow colored bookshelf if you want it, but I'm much more interested in why you're hanging on to your old yearbooks. So, Nick, give us all kind of a background about the situation that you're in.
Sure, Tracy. I would say 2015 is probably where we should start this story. That's when I met my wife, Sarah. We fell in love very quickly, got married within a year, and then our households merged. And at that point in time, I was doing local radio in Mobile, Alabama. I met her and I was like, look, I'm moving to Nashville. And at that point, she had moved from Alabama to Colorado to Iowa. Like, essentially, we're both nomadic people because we're in businesses that say, like, you got to go where the work is. And so Sarah was like, well, you're going to need help moving. I have a horse trailer. I can help move your stuff. Now, I was raised under the guise that stuff is kind of disposable, right? So my emotional attachment to stuff was the table was set by saying, like, you go through stuff every year and you decide what you're going to keep and get rid of. And there's really no emotional attachment that you have to have to stuff unless it's something that is really meaningful to you personally. I very quickly learned as we merged our households that that is not how Sarah was raised. Sarah was raised under the guise of, well, this costs a lot of money and you're only going to get to have one of these. And they don't make them like they used to. And so there are layers stacked upon layers with how she was raised about her relationship with her things. And as a result of that, we we have a very different approximation of what's important. And there have been times in our relationship over the last 10 years where it's like, oh, I broke something. Oh, I'm so sorry. And it's like, it sends her off, right? It sends her to a new plane. And some of it's because of my personal negligence. And that's more of her beef about usually if I break something or
And so, meaning by that, like she feels like you don't respect her stuff, or you,
correct.
okay,
Absolutely. So I'll give you
okay,
one example. When we were in Colorado, there was like a Pier One bowl. Pier One's gone out of business. You know, you can't. So anyway, I was like, oh, this would look cool on our center table. So it was on our center table in our living room. And then one day I accidentally like pushed it a little too hard with my foot and it knocked over and broke. This was long before I knew about kintsugi and like being
yeah.
able to glue these back together.
And I'm imagining that
Hilariously,
you've taught yourself this skill now.
so hilariously, a record label actually sent me kintsugi kit after breaking this thing, but it was like long after I had broke it, so I never got to put it back together. But so that's just like one time.
Mhm.
Um, I have very few belongings by comparison to Sarah because of how I was raised. She has, for instance, right now, the desk that I'm working. She's had this since college.
Right.
She's had this desk since college, and while we're at a point now where, when it comes to stuff, we're happy to be a little bit more aggressive with what we've gotten rid of. Another one is
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
there were some end tables that when we were purging for our move from Colorado Springs to Florida, um, we knew we were going to have to just get rid of stuff because it was going to be a cross country move. We've done this before. And there were two wooden end tables that could not come with us. We just didn't have room for them. Or we were going to have to get a storage unit in Colorado Springs. which sadly we ended up giving away the wood tables. She has a epic come apart about them, and then we end up getting a storage unit anyway. So we should have held on to them. So again, when it comes to relationship with stuff, it's layer upon layer upon layer. Now, how we arrived here to the Instagram millennial inheritance story. Uh, this is our final destination. We've moved 20 times in 10 years. We're done. And so now is the first time where we have accepted that we are not going anywhere. We are on the same page about this. We're staying where we're at. We've bought a home. It's time to go through everything, take stock. And that's where our unpacking adventures have come through. I took about a 6 or 7 year hiatus from posting on social media just because I was burnt out. And I started back in June, and just kind of sporadic. Right?
Right.
And so that's how we ended up at the millennial inheritance. The millennial inheritance is the idea that we're not going to inherit the things that you typically think of when it comes to an inheritance. It's the idea that you're just going to inherit a bunch of stuff that you're going to have to go through and inevitably do an epic keep get rid of.
And so let me ask you the stuff that you guys are going through on social media. I mean, when you talk about the Onita, I was like, oh, you've got me there. You had me at Onita. Is it stuff that you all have been moving around, or has there been a recent passing so more stuff has come in?
Great question. In 2018, Sarah's grandmother passed away suddenly. And at that point, Sarah's mom, Liz, had to go into this home and clean it all out. And what she was finding was closets that were stacked to the brim with stuff from from Dansk,
Hmm.
Oneida,
Hmm.
all the big heavy players that people like to shop at. And hilariously, someone in my comments was like, "Darn you, outlet malls!" And I was like, you know what? You know what? She had a Tanger outlet mall like 5 minutes from her house. So you already know. So Nani clearly had a shopping addiction. We figured
Right.
out. So a lot of the stuff that we have been going through and document going through on social media is stuff that we specifically asked for. But then there's also the stuff that we didn't ask for or we don't remember saying yes to. Like it gets to a point with Sarah's mom, Liz. She'll pick up the phone and call us and be like, "Hey, I got this thing. I'll send you a photo. Do you want it?" And we'll look at the photo and say a yes or a no real fast, right?
Hmm.
But you do that over the course of many years, and this is again 2018 to now. This
Yeah.
is almost 8 years of, oh, now we get to go through all the stuff that we said yes to, and now we get to go through all the stuff that she just put aside for us because she wanted us to have it. There's
Right.
also that.
Right. So, I mean, what's so fascinating, I mean, it's so fascinating is you've got these kind of generational, right? So you have grandma, who I'm assuming by her age was a boomer. So,
I think even further
oh,
than boomer. Yeah.
greatest generation. She was
Yeah,
the
I
one
think
before.
so. I think so.
So I'm going to make some assumptions, so correct me if I'm wrong, but she's informed by the Depression, two world wars, right? So and you talked about this too, right? That Noni comes from, oh no, there was a really good chance you weren't going to get it again, right? Like it was available once and that was that. And then all of a sudden, manufacturing went overseas, things got cheap to make, the advent of the middle class, which happened after World War II, all these kinds of things. So all of a sudden, Noni's carrying this, oh, I used to have to get it because I didn't know when I could get it again, to having it available everywhere, which, not to get into her psychology, could have fed into the shopping addiction. I don't know if shopping addiction for me, when I see it in clients, is very attached to loneliness, to it's usually someone, especially women are widowed, they're just not, they're not connecting with people, so they're shopping.
Mm.
And a lot of times that shopping also gets rationalized. Well, the kids are going to want it, or the grandkids are going to want it, or this is a good deal. So that is swept down to you. Um, so let me ask you about sort of Sarah's mom and all of this, right? So Noni's step, this is her mother, right? So it came to her. So then sounds like she's become the keeper of the stuff.
She has, and it's also because her brother and sister don't want to deal with it. And her sister's off in Colorado. Her brother's, round the corner, but he's like, "Well, I don't need it." And Liz is a retired school nurse, so she has the ability to like now actually go through it. The problem is like you go to her house, it's like my wife's old room is, filled with stuff. And I'm grateful for it because there is so much of the stuff that we are now. We've also kind of had to use Liz for like makeshift storage. Like we
Yeah.
shared a storage unit with Liz because so like I'm never gonna complain about any of the things that Liz has put aside for us because I know that a lot of the stuff that she emotionally said like, all right, I'm putting this aside for Sarah, I'm putting this aside for Nick. Um, that all comes from a good place. It's, I think, the general, what the deuce is this? That, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know your mom put an umbrella stand in all of this stuff for us. Like, who's drinking tea? Who needs two teapots? Is this a sugar dispenser? What even is this? So,
How
like,
how much giant iced tea dispensers are we going to make? And this is the you brought something up. This is the interesting needle that we thread. I mean, my company is based on a sustainability mindset. Like we try and reuse and donate as much as we can. We really, I mean, I have a 10,000 square foot warehouse that I could show you right now full of stuff that we're going to sort, and we are in LA. We are still giving things to fire victims. Like we try
oh,
really hard.
yeah.
So you show us that Sarah's desk from college and she's still using it. Like I want to use things until they give out. But it all of a sudden hits this tipping point where you're like, we can't use all this. Like we can't use all these plates. We don't need all these iced tea spoons. And I think the thing that really drew me to what you guys were going for is how many people in the comments were calling you ungrateful. Like that.
Yeah.
I mean, and look, I see it. I was doing a speaking event one time, and this woman stood up and she had three sons who are all married. And she personally had six sets of china that she deemed very valuable. And her sons' wives, who I'm assuming were making the household decisions about entertaining stuff, didn't want any of her china. They had their own mother's china. She stopped talking to her children. She was so angry and felt that they were so ungrateful that they wouldn't take this thing that she deemed valuable. And to me, I'm always like, wait, so you're going to burn down this relationship for for some china, And do you
Yeah.
feel like where is Liz in all this?
Liz, it's interesting. So, all right. So Nani was very much that.
Hmm.
So she was very much the, well, sure you want it. You gotta have it. Like,
Right.
that
I
was,
picked it out for you. It was on sale. It was a good deal.
and there are specific things like Nani's stand mixer, which isn't a KitchenAid, like, but we have it. It looks like it's from the '60s. I don't,
Right.
but it's,
You could power a semi truck with it.
yeah, so like I don't we have it, but it's an emotional thing for Sarah because she wants to use it specifically for one time a year where she's going to do cookies. Anyway, but Liz has yo-yoed. She has so Liz would be Liz is baby boomer, but Liz is like baby boomer that retired, but like you feel like is still gonna have to go back to work. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
she's the one, she understands the struggle, and she's been the one that's more of like if you don't want it, give it away. But also there have been moments with her where it's like, and she'll attest to this, where it's like, yeah, I feel some type of way about you giving that away, give it back,
Yeah.
or or don't, or if you don't want it, give it away. So it's as long as I think you communicate that openly, like we don't want this, we're going to either donate it or do you want it back, then I think it's, you're walking the line of respect with that person.
Totally. And
um
I think exactly what you said, that there is, she is straddling, right? She's sort of in between two worlds, right?
Yeah.
That, and there are going to be things that come along, and she's like, yeah, no, I'm not good with giving that away. But, I always say to my clients, if everything's special, nothing's special. So if you hang on to everything and you import like all this value and all this importance in it, then nothing becomes important. So there are going to be things, and Liz gets that, right? To me, she's like, okay, this is one that's too hard for me to give away. And
She does.
I'm sure you're like, and then when Liz passes, we will be dealing with this again.
Yeah. Well, I think we're trying to help her get through it so that she can live a normal life,
Yeah.
right?
Do you
Um,
feel like she is very like is this stuff, I mean, do you feel like this stuff is owning her opposed to her owning the stuff?
yeah. Well, I mean, I think once she will not feel that way once her storage unit is empty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think that if I had to quantify it by something, I would say like we are helping her. There's stuff that I know that is in Sarah's room that will probably move here that is again beautiful, old furniture, well kept. They don't make it like they used to, like grateful to have it. Like there's and so, again, there's a lot of gratitude I have for this woman holding on to some of this stuff. But I think for her knowing what she's going through perpetually, it's she's ready for sure. It's just it's tough
Yeah.
to find sources to give some of the things to sometimes, and I think she's been going through it one box at a time because sometimes it's all we can do.
Right. And I think that, I say this to clients all the time, like, what's the thing that's going to lighten your load? Like, is it getting rid of that storage unit? I mean, unit is a monkey on your back. You're paying for it every month. You don't go to that, so if someone's out there trying to manage this process, like is it getting that guest room back? Is it being able to park your car in the garage? Like making it very tangible. And I think that's what, just again, to go back to this, which struck me when people in the comments kept saying you were ungrateful. I was like, I do not get that at all. Like,
So, like we know who we are, right? We're
yeah,
disgruntled millennials, but we're disgruntled
yes.
about a lot of things that's not just related to stuff. We're disgruntled about housing prices. We're disgruntled about, inflation. Yeah, things that I think everyone are, whether you're, Gen X, boomer, I mean, Gen Z doesn't even know money exists. So it's like
No, they don't.
so
They
so
don't.
it's a really, like, we're all a little bit disgruntled about the way that the world is right now. I would say 90% of my comments have been positive, and then like 10% of the comments that are saying that you're ungrateful. I'm like, look, okay, that's your opinion. Let me give you more context.
Yeah,
Let me get then
totally.
then you really make the judgment call. And 9 times out of 10, people are just keyboard jockeys and they don't want the context. They just want to.
Well, and I think what the context for that is, I think the where your and Sarah's gratitude comes through is that you are helping your mother-in-law do this. This isn't easy. It's not
Right.
physically easy. It's not emotionally. You could have just been like, you keep that stuff, and then when the time comes, we don't care. You are actually doing this process. I think there's so much grace and respect and honor in that. Like you're helping her process. So I'm grateful. And look, I've been doing this for 18 years. I hear you're ungrateful. I mean, I tell this story many times, but when my grandmother passed, I was very close to my grandmother, and I inherited a box of photos in her house, and I took it with me because I was like, oh, these are really old and they're very important. My dad's getting older, and so a couple Thanksgivings, I was like, Dad, you got to go through these pictures with me. You got it. Like I'd moved them to 4 houses, like I'd taken them with me. I was like, you got to tell me who these people are now before you can't remember. Okay, Nick, not my family. My grandma had grabbed somebody else's, like,
Photos.
my dad's like, I have no idea who these people are. Like, really, don't know this house. So, I think and when somebody says, oh, you're not grateful, that's about them, right? That's about them.
Yeah, look, that they're you have to remember that they're usually the people that comment that are older, and then I can be like, well, I can tell what your relationship with, like,
Yes.
your relationship with stuff is gonna be much different from my relationship with stuff. Your relationship with stuff is like, I understand too, like millennial inheritance off the bat, the word inheritance implies that someone took this, bought it, or thought of you, and they put it in a box, and then they died, and they said, "This is Nick's box," right? That is not what is happening. You know what
No,
I mean? Like, and
no,
so
but
and so
I
I
agree.
think it's
But I agree with you. I mean, I think, look, again, I do this for a living. The kindest thing a person can do is not leave a big mess. Like
yeah,
we specialize in estate decluttering. We go in and clean out houses. Like I have seen families ripped apart by it. You talked about in one video reading The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. Like I think that's the grace. My niece just went and visited my mom. My niece is 25, and she called me after her grandma, and she called me afterwards in tears. She's like, "Is Nana dying?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, kind of every day, but not tomorrow, I don't think." She's like, "She just tried to give me this jewelry and all this stuff. And what does that
oh,
mean?" And I said, "It means Nana wants to see you enjoy it while she's still alive." Like,
yeah,
and she was like, "Oh, I love it." And I'm like, "Then wear it and wear it when you're around Nana. That's what she wants." And so,
yeah,
that part of I'm a big, big like, give the stuff away while you're still alive so you can look at people enjoy it. Like, that's what you want. Um,
yeah.
this is how do you dev- this is how do you define what is valuable?
Well, a couple ways through utility, so use, right? Does it have a function? Is it something that we're using? Or is it just something that's taking up space? So that's the first one. Like, what is the use for it? And then emotion would be the second one. Is this something that you have emotional attachment to that you cannot part with? So those are, I think, the two ways that I look at things for sure.
So I'd throw this one. I agree with you. I look at so many of the items in our lives as tools, right? They're tools for make your life easier. You need a spatula. Spatula helps you. Then there is the stuff you're emotionally attached to. It brings up a memory. Also, you just love looking at it. It makes you happy to look at it. Then another layer to that is I'm like, the value is what someone's going to give you cash for it today. That's
Yeah,
the financial value. And so many people put the value as, well, this is what I paid for it. It's like, well, it's like buying a new car. You drive that thing off the lot and it is, like furniture is a diminishing asset. You don't buy furniture to make money off of it. You buy furniture to sit on it. So I think that's the thing that I'm always trying to impart to people. Like there's what you think you should get for it, but then there's what someone's going to give you cash for today.
yeah. What's the definition of an asset and what's the definition of stuff? Assets
Ex-
appreciate, right?
yep.
That's the idea. So a house, hopefully like a investment portfolio, whatever it is, that's stuff that's going to hopefully accrue value over time. Even jewelry, sometimes can accrue value.
Yeah,
Um,
gold right now is through the roof. PS people.
yeah, yeah. I mean, look, I was talking to my dad the other day, and he was like, I got a silver set I bought for like $800 in the '80s, and the price of silver's way up, but he's like, but I can't use the stuff, so he's starting to go through stuff in his house because they
Well,
know
and
that they're gonna
the interesting thing, like they take that silver set is, he'll sell it and they'll melt it down. They're not
right.
keeping the silver set. Like any of that gold they're gonna melt it down. So I think that, I really invite people into that conversation about what's valuable. Like, how are you perceiving value? And yeah, people get so wrapped around the axles about it. I have these things that I wrote. My first book is about. I call them clutter blocks, and they're exactly what you're dealing with. They're the 7 emotional stories we all tell ourselves about our stuff. And clutter block number 6 is stuck with other people's stuff. So you guys are deeply in that. And do you? How has this changed your relationship to stuff?
So a few ways. So first, positive.
Hmm.
One of the things that I realized that I did with stuff was I would organize and then reorganize. Like doing it once was not enough. there has to be a better way. And
Yes.
then after marrying Sarah and spending time with her, her aspect about the organizational side of things is no, things have their place. That is where they live. They cannot move. Because if they move, then you lose them.
Hmm.
So I had to
I think
adopt
that's called object permanence.
object permanence.
Hmm.
Perfect. So Sarah had more of the object permanence. I had the, man, there's got to be a better way to do this. But as a result of there's got to be a better way to do this. Like Sarah would come home and it'd be like, my office would be like, stuff thrown asunder. It'd be like, help me, pass me the HDMI cord, woman. Like, she comes home like, what is happening? Like, and so and so you come home to that and you're like, all right, you need help. And so what we have been able to identify in our relationship about organization specifically is that my version of ADD or ADHD, whatever it is that
Mhm.
however I have been wired, has been more of a like I get an obsessive compulsion to reorganize, and it's a hyperfixation that I'm
Mhm.
locked in on. And so someone else coming in and breaking it, but I'm almost done. I'm almost there. Like it's all stuff that I have to take accountability for, and it's not her problem. My aspect of things had to change as a result of everything that I had been made aware of about myself. And so I was like, yeah, she's right. Object permanence, this works. I'm losing a lot less stuff. And so we kind of go through and adopt, all right, this is going to be this thing's place
Mhm.
as a result of that. So that's I think the first big positive change that I've had with regard to
And
my
also,
relationship with
you're
stuff.
learning marriage is just about
It
compromise.
is, and I think over communication, in many ways, at least for Sarah, she's a big communicator, but she requires a level of communication to hold people accountable that I think would rival most people's relationships. Just my personal experience with her, there is a level of over communication, like just about how I think
Hmm.
about stuff, whether it be my other relationships with my friends or other people. She wants to know where I'm at, and I need to do a good job of trying to vocalize where I'm at, and that includes stuff. That includes, hey, I got a box of I got a box of record label stuff. Like, do we have a place for this in our house, or is the theme of this room going to be Auburn and Alabama? Because I went to Alabama and she went to Auburn. So it's trying to have those like honest conversations about like, well, does this mean something to me or does that? And what are we going to prioritize? What's our themes going to be coming into this new house? And with that being said, what has no utility? What are we going to say? You know, I got a box of cords in there. Once I get my PC set up, that box of cords is leaving because I won't have a need for the box anymore.
It's a literal holiday in my household when I need a cord and my husband can go to his cords and cable box and find that cord. It is a holiday
Yeah.
dancing around. It's interesting that you say that because I've been doing this for 18 years and I organize to like you and I'm constantly looking for a better way. And as the universe likes to play jokes on us, I married an amazing man. We've been married for 2.5 years now. Oh so messy, oh so disorganized,
Yeah.
oh so and clean. Our house is immaculate. He cleans the kitchen better than I do, but it's it's just mind-boggling to me. But where we had to get to through communication and all that is that I had to realize that my over organizing was when usually happened when I felt out of control about
Mm,
something else in my life, my business, aging parents. I would come home, over organize, and kind of when I had to walk that back because it was just a waste of time. And then helping him understand that the reason to be organized is it's not about right or wrong. It's that if you put your keys in the same place, you will find them tomorrow.
right. Right. And
So.
and someone has to kind of give a little, right? Someone has to kind
Well,
of cave
both
in just a
people
little bit,
do.
or but yeah, right. So or it's at different times completely, you
Yeah.
know. So
And I think it's interesting too. I see this a lot in, I mean, just all the time in that for whatever reason, in our, I can go back to where I think it came from, but that the messy person is wrong. That's the idea in our society, that the messy person is wrong and the neat and organized person is right. And so we just have to, that's not always because there's ADHD, there's neurodivergency, there's just
there
so
is.
many things like just we can't. If anybody's struggling with that, there's a really good book called How to Keep House While Drowning by Casey Davis. She talks about that. So I yeah, I think it's great. So I just
Just letting the dog out. Sorry about that.
oh, cute, cute. Yeah, I think I've got it all. I would say, do you feel, I want to wrap up with this. Do you feel like the emotional load on your mother-in-law and Sarah is being lightened down the process?
Um, yeah, I certainly think that we're happy to feel like we have people object permanence. Having
Hmm.
been two people that have been in nomadic careers, we're now at a point where we say enough is enough. We're just gonna stay in the house that we just bought. And we're not gonna leave. We're just gonna find a way to make it work. And so that gives us, I think, a certain level of okay, we can really settle in because so much of this stuff has been like, all right, you get to a place, you get settled in, but then you have to move again, and then you have to move again, and so
Well, and the flip side, I'm gonna just jump in about that. The interesting thing about we got to move again, because one half of that, I got to move again, is like just let go of it, just let go of it. I don't want to move to across country. But
right.
then the other side of that, for possibly Sarah, is like, well, I don't know where I'm going to end up. So how do I know I don't want this? Because I don't know where. Like, so you're two sides of the same coin.
And you have to have enough space to go through everything, but then you can't, it's not as simple as outsourcing a judgment call. You have to be the it's kind of some detective work that you're doing on your stuff. And people will say like hire a junk company, do an estate sale. Well, Liz did 3 estate sales before we got the stuff. And
By the way,
so
we get hired all the time to go in before the estate sale because
well,
you've got to
I
go
have a
in and
question for
yeah,
you then. So
yeah.
let me ask you this, because there's some hilarious comments on my Instagram of people that are like, I hope your kids take your cup and just throw it away whenever. Like, for instance, my Alabama cup that I have is like my prized possession. And people are like, I hope your kids just take that cup and just throw it out, you ungrateful, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my gracious. First of all, what kids?
Yeah.
Well, which kids are y'all talking about? Because we ain't having none of those. So,
Right.
like, my
And
question for you, owning the declutter company, is what happens when people that don't have kids, or let's say I leave some stuff to my niece and nephew, but I'm like, everything else has to go like to the bank. Like, let's say the house isn't paid for. Like, do they just come in foreclose on it? Like, do they do the declutter for you? Because like, if I don't want to put any of this on any relative at all, what happens? Take me through it.
right. So yeah. So first of all, that comment, like I don't have kids either, so I'm like, whatever. I mean, technically in the legality of it, your closest living relative, which depending on your family structure, it will
Right.
be, even if you don't have a will, even if you don't make a trust, it will go to your niece or someone will become accountable for it. But
Okay.
here's the thing that I tell people, like, okay, that guy's yelling at you about, you're going to be dead. You don't care what happens to your Alabama cup. You don't
Yeah,
care.
that's
I
that's
mean,
true, but I also don't want to saddle someone else with it, which is
this
more
is
of
why
the
you do what you're doing. This is,
right, the
see,
Swedish the
exactly.
Swedish death cleaning. Yeah, this is why
Exactly.
you
Because
you, you do that.
someone, even if it goes to the bank, even let's say there's no living relatives to anybody and they get this house full of stuff, it's going to go to the bank and they're going to, hire a company like mine and we're going to pull out the personal stuff and see if there's someone that we can find it to. And then they're going to bring in a estate sale company. So someone at some point is going to have to deal with it. So
Okay.
if you just leave it, but I do joke with clients all the time. I said, they're like, oh, I can't get rid of this. This was my grandma's and she loved it so much. And I'm like, she's gone. And I'm like, no one has ever been haunted by getting rid of the thing. She's not coming back. In fact, her wish for you is for you to be happy and not resentful. And if you don't like this thing and it gives you a bad feeling, I am shocked at how much people keep of things like family members they hated, like
Mm.
full of all that stuff. So, I just think like my grandma, I mean, I'll start crying the minute I talk about it. My grandmother was like one of my favorite humans in the world. Truly, I have two things of hers. I
Mm.
have her wedding ring that I wear every day, and I have a little leather notebook that has her handwriting in it that sits on my desk. And when I need to, I look at my granny's handwriting. If whatever came to be, and you said you could have all this stuff that was hers, or you could have a cup of tea with her for an hour again, I would have a
Have
cup of
that cup
tea.
of tea. Yeah, have that cup of tea.
Have that cup of tea. That's
So
the thing.
I have one other question then for you,
Yes.
since you're the professional declutterer. So I'm about to for my next episode of the Millennial Inheritance, I'm probably going to go through my yearbooks and some old
Oh.
middle school photo albums. So before I
Mhm.
go dive in and write my episode,
I can't
what do
wait.
you give me your 2 cents on yearbooks and old photo albums where, it was a Polaroid camera. I had my like finger in front of half the photo.
So, yearbooks, here's my feeling about them. We have Facebook now, and there is somebody in your graduating class that has kept all that. So I know her name. Give shout out Erica Washington. She has every yearbook. She posts the pictures on Facebook all the time. I do not need my yearbooks. I've ripped out the pages of me on the cheerleading squad because my niece and nephew like to see it. I'm about ready to do another pass of my photos because my niece and nephew do not need to inherit friends, put photos of my drunk college friends. I like them. I've got a couple small boxes because I like to look through them and I send them to people. But yearbooks, I mean,
So when you do you feel bad throwing them out or recycling them? Is that just like you just take them to the recycling? You just
yeah, I don't
or-
feel bad. It's everywhere now with Facebook. There are those people. We've found them, and people clients have insisted, and we've called Beverly Hills High, and we're like, we have yearbooks for the last, and they're like, oh yeah, we have so many of them. Like, we don't want them. So
well, all right.
it's
Okay.
about like, are you still in a point in your life where you're like, it cracks me up to look at that picture in my yearbook. I have not
No,
looked at
not at
mine.
all. Like,
Yeah.
and I think too, like your perspective lends me perspective before I go in and say like, oh well, hey, I just got to find the person on Facebook that already digitized everything,
Yeah,
right?
totally. And there's so many we come across this. There are so many places like, we have sent tons of stuff to like the Peterson like car museum in LA. They collect all these car photos. So if we come
Mm.
across, if it's a historical value, but those photos are there to remind you and delight you. And if your yearbook doesn't delight you anymore, let it go because somebody's got it. I'm telling you, Davis High, class of 1983, Erica Washington, she has them all.
I'll have to find my Erica Washington.
There
Well,
you go.
I will I'll send you a photo when I chuck my yearbook
Yeah, do
boxes.
it. It's
Just
great. Nick, this was fantastic. I so appreciate you. I mean, so many people are going to learn so much from this journey. I wish you and Sarah the best, and I
thank
just
you.
hope your new home is blessed with love and lots of laughter. And at Nick Fox Radio on all the socials. You
Yep.
guys give him if you're dealing with it, if you're a millennial and you're dealing with it, or if you're a boomer and you're hanging on, give him a listen because it's really valuable
Yeah.
information.
We're not mutually exclusive to just the millennials. It just so happens me and my wife are both elder millennials, and this is what our reality has been.
Yeah, you got it. All right.
Send help.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you.